Hi, everybody. I'm Dave, and he's Peter, and welcome back to the From the Head's Desk podcast. We've done a number of these throughout the school year. Many of them have been focused on single issues, single subjects, but today we're just going to kind of spitball and go through some things, Peter. So let's just kind of talk a little bit about to get started. This is really almost the end of your second year as head of school here at St. Stephen's. And that time has really flown by, at least it has for me.
Yeah, it sure has. It's hard to believe, actually.
So maybe let's kind of reflect a little bit on the time you've spent here already. Tell us a little bit about what you think about the 2 years you spent here, and particularly what pleases you about the first couple of years.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I'll take a second question and I'll leave it to others to, tell me how I've done. But there's so much that pleases me about St. Stephen's and about the community we have here. And I think that's where I always start. I've always kind of, and not in a cynical way either, but kind of always waited for the shoe to drop and the people to become less friendly or less kind or less committed, and it just hasn't happened, and it's clearly not going to. And that's really what makes it special. And, we were recently honored by the Manatee Community Foundation with the Spirit of Manatee Award. And that award was about community. It really it had nothing to do with me, and it had everything to do with we and how much our community came together at a time of need, both for St. Stephen's and for the broader community of Bradenton and Sarasota. The other thing that I'm incredibly blessed and happy with is our faculty and our staff. I have not worked, and I've said this many times, and I'll keep saying it, I haven't worked anywhere where people work harder and are more committed to our promise that every child will be known and every child will be valued. And they are also willing to adapt and take on new things and do extra when we need them. And gosh knows we've needed it this year. So I feel like I'm blessed to have inherited that. I did not create that. I inherited it. And I'm really, really pleased to continue these traditions and the values. The last thing I'm happy about is, and again, I recognize that every day we fall short, but I do feel that the culture of kindness is really, really, really taking hold. And again, it builds on that community spirit that I just said before. But I think I sense that our students and adults are just a little bit more self-aware about, hey, what are we trying to build here and why is that so important? So, very, very proud to be a part of a community like this.
Well, and we talk about, your 2 years here, but it's actually closer to 3 because you spent that year prior to coming, spending a lot of time just kind of getting to know what St. Stephen's was about. And you got that opportunity, but there must have been some surprises once you set foot on campus, and maybe you could share what those are.
Sure. Well, on the positive side, I think the biggest surprise, and we moved here thinking we were really going to like Bradenton and really like St. Stephen's. But I have to say, I think my wife, Kim, and I love it even more than we thought. I love the vibe of Bradenton. I really, really enjoy the pace of school and of life. I've said this in a couple other different occasions outside of the gates. I don't know that people in Bradenton, Sarasota recognize how unusual this community is in terms of the business community and the nonprofit and the philanthropic community, and how willing people are to work together to improve the way of life in Bradenton. I've gotten to know everybody from Mayor Brown to Sharon Hillstrom at the EDC to Jackie Dzelski down at the Chamber, and I can tell you, I worked in a lot of places for a long time and didn't get a chance to really get to know and work with those folks. So that our love of Bradenton has really evolved much more rapidly even than I would have anticipated. Challenges, I think I'd come up with 2. One's not going to surprise you. I don't think any of us could have anticipated 3 hurricanes, electrical problems, and other challenges and issues that we've had. And while you plan for all of those, to have them be kind of back to back to back to back has been it's been challenging, but not demoralizing or defeating. In terms of the school, I'd say the biggest surprise I had was athletics. I think this school has always been thoughtful and strong academically, artistically, and athletically. But there was a little more work to do than I had anticipated there. I'm really proud of Cole Hudson and Heather Hodges and the work that they've done in identifying some really, really top flight coaches. And I won't name them um, in the fear of missing somebody, but I really think we're moving in the right direction there. And I have said before, my metrics are more kids showing up? When those kids show up, are they getting better? And do those coaches really know those students, their families, and the community outside? And I look at the new hires and the, long-standing coaches here, and I feel like we've got really good momentum and wind at our backs.
Peter, I know one of the things that you're also focused on is kind of looking at the security issues we have on campus. A lot of things are in place, but we've had some challenges in that as well this year. And some of those systems were tested, giving us an opportunity to look at how we respond. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, yes. And, I'd start by saying we're really lucky, in having John Affolter and Josh Kramer here. One of the things people, I think, all in the community know how thoughtful and capable they are. But I'm not sure everybody realizes just how direct a pipeline they have to our emergency services in Bradenton. If something happens on this campus, we get immediate response. And from a security level, I've never worked in a school like that. And I'm really, really thankful. That said, we have seen some things in our security protocols and program that we know we need to continue to improve. We met with the county about a month ago, and we'll meet with them again in May to talk about our reunification processes. And they were kind enough to give us some suggestions and take a look at our current plans. And again, we'll meet with them again in May to tighten those up even more. I had the chance over spring break to talk with some folks from USF in the private sector and really take a look at what our training regimen is and how we can continue to do that better, including how we quote unquote train our families and what kind of communication strategies upfront rather than reactive we can. We have completely reviewed and added to and tightened our security and our emergency response manuals. And while a manual is just that, it's not what happens in real time. I feel like we've really done a nice job of building on already a good processes and just tightening them up. The last thing, I've mentioned this before, and Dave, you know this because you've been working on it with me, is a text-based communication system. And that is front and center in a lot of the work we're doing. We previewed any number of them. We're actually having a meeting next Tuesday to have the next conversation level down. So certainly by the beginning of next year, our families will see the fruits of all of these labors, and particularly that latter piece, or text-based communication. I don't want it to necessarily replace some of those emails. I feel like those emails can do things in the ideal world that a text cannot, but they need to build on one another rather than be mutually exclusive.
So shifting gears just a little bit, I know every year you've been very transparent in sharing with everyone your priorities. And I know that we're going to link those priorities for next year in this email that accompanies this podcast. So specifically, you prioritize the key areas in this current strategic plan, which runs through next July, 26. And that's, to strengthen the unique culture of St. Stephen's, to maintain our academic excellence and enhance the student experience, to ensure the school's long-term institutional sustainability, and to attract, develop, and retain world-class faculty and staff. How are those going? How do you see that?
Well, of course, the one never is done. And one thing I would say is that, I'm a continuous improvement person. So I'm very aware of particularly where I need to improve, but also, where we as a school do. But I think in general, we've made really good progress in a number of, and really all of these areas. the cultural piece I talked about before, that culture of kindness, I do think the message is getting stickier and stickier. And, hats off to folks throughout the community that are really paying attention to that, to work on the discipline with a small d, where you're really working to help students understand why this really matters for their own interests and for those of their friends. We just did some survey work with our students around engagement, and we'll be sharing those shortly with the students. I want to continue to look at this kind of data because while schools run on human interactions, they don't run on, survey monkeys. The reality is you can get a lot of information that can really help you serve students well. I'm very pleased with some of the work we've been doing in the broader community. We announced at the gala our partnership with Fungication, a local STEAM education group. We're partnering with the Boys and Girls Club on the showing of the fentanyl project, a very heavy topic to be sure, but a really important one. I continue to talk to folks in the Easter Seals about doing partnership with them with some arts. On the financial sustainability piece, we've made great progress in some areas, but it's been a hard year. We changed our fundraising schedule quite a bit. I think that's been a big success. Our annual fund is tracking well above where it was last year. I think starting in November gave us a chance to really just to let folks settle in. And remember, that annual fund's for people. That supports our people. And, the holiday gift fund was just a great example of how that happened. We have 100% board and faculty participation at this time, and our last push of the year is going to be around participation. So if you're a parent listening to this and you haven't had the chance to support the annual fund, please do. And I promise I'm not just saying this, participation is our focus now. So even if, like so many of us, you don't have a whole lot of change left at the end of the month, any even small amount, we're looking to try to get above 50% participation. And that's an important metric for us to get to for foundation grants and other things. The gala was spectacular, thanks to Trina and Marcy and the whole team that did amazing work on that. Again, that's for our house, for our home. And I'm excited that will continue to make our campus and our facilities better. Rock the Max coming up. And remember, that's for athletics and our teams. There's lots of opportunities to still participate. What we really need you to do is buy some tickets if you're interested. Our sponsorships and everything have gone really, really well. And then, of course, endowment, our future, our legacy fund. You and your team have done great work with the website. We're making good strides in certain critical markets, particularly Sarasota. We've always been strong in Lakewood Ranch. But Sarasota was an area we've targeted. We've done well. But sustainability has two sides, Dave, and one of them is weathering, no pun intended, challenges. We incur $600 plus thousand uninsured and direct and indirect costs. That's been a challenge for us. The other, it was tuition. And, everyone listening to this knows that we increased it, and not insignificantly. And we had to do that because prior to that, we'd been below the CPI and the compensation levels. But it's not lost on me that we need to keep our eye on that ball. And we can't continue to do that year over year over year, or we'll price families like my own out of this school. And we don't want to do that. And then lastly, we're all living in an era of uncertainty, with markets and tariffs. They've created challenges for us. In the STEAM campaign, which is going well, but honestly, it's got some work to do. We got some more room to grow there. So you didn't ask this, but this uncertainty is really what keeps me up at night. Academics, I'm excited. This is a 10-year vision, but the Falcons' journey, we're going to make sure that every kid before they leave here has a signature achievement. The Center for Academic Success, we just hired a fantastic learning specialist, Sarah Sandberg. We're fully staffed there. We're continuing to look at ways that we can flex in support in the lower and intermediate schools fully. Lower school math, the bridges, I think has gone quite well. Teachers have more time. The curriculum, I believe, is deeper. And for year one of that, I think has been extraordinarily successful. Our teachers are working on what I call snapshots by discipline, so that if someone, a parent or a colleague came by and said, "So what do you do in this class?" They'll be able to, or this grade level, they'll be able to show you something that's not overwhelming, but is helpful. If we have any educators who know the term curriculum mapping, I can tell you from experience that I don't believe that those 50-page curriculum maps are of much work. But we do need to be able to articulate what we do. Um, and then finally, our people. I mean, we've hired some extraordinary people, and from kindergarten to middle school to upper school, they've done really, really a good job. And now our job is to keep them and to help all of us grow. So we have plenty of room to grow, plenty of room to get better, but I think we're making progress. And it's one foot in front of the other. I'm certainly playing the long game here personally, but I also know that we need to be, as I said when I first got here, be quick but not hurry. So we're not going to waste time, but we're also going to recognize that things take time.
Well, thank you for that. I know one of the things you mentioned just a minute ago was the STEAM Center, something that a lot of folks are very excited about. And I know I get the opportunity to get in there almost weekly and see what's new. And there were some big, big changes in the last week or so that I won't let out the bag, but maybe you can. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how that's coming along.
Yeah, it's really coming along well, Dave. The big excitement for this past week is that the retractable stadium seating went in. And now all of a sudden that space, which was already impressive, you really go, wow, that's really something. We had a number of folks toured through, including my friend Elliot Palchioni, who was the head at the Bradenton Area Convention Visitors Bureau. And he's probably hard to impress, was really impressed with the way the facility's coming along. As I said before, I'm really pleased with not just the infrastructure, but our commitment and our partnership with Bunchication. But, there have been challenges. The tariffs have added already a pretty significant increase to some of the expenses. And so what I just want to say is it's going to be great. And when people walk in there, your jaw will drop. But we also need to be patient. It's not going to be completely done come August and September. And I don't mean the building. I mean the way the building lives and breathes. That using an analogy before, the house will be beautiful. The home, which will also be beautiful, but it's going to take a while for us to live in. So if one comes in and says, wait, where's the blank, blank, blank? No, it's coming, but we also want to live in that building and make sure that we use our resources well, rather than just running out and trying to do it all at once and then realize, oh, wait a second, I wish we had done X instead of Y. It's going to be great, though. I'm very pleased.
Absolutely. One of the things people say to me, and that I experience personally, obviously, is, you're a very positive person and you have a very calm presence, which we do appreciate. And we all know that your job is a stressful one as well. So tell me a little bit about how that goes down with you. How do you manage that?
Well, I think I fake it well, Dave. No, but, the thing is, I love my job. I love students. I love working with their families. I really admire and love our teachers and our employees, and that makes it a lot easier to do a hard job when you really truly love it. And I often say this, and I really mean it, that my role, as I see it, is to help other people succeed. If I do that well, and I take that seriously and take great delight in it, then I think the school will continue to thrive. And, as I've said, I stand on the shoulders of giants. I know that people like Jan Paulin and others who came before me were the ones who really built the school into what it is today. My job is to continue to make it better, but also to take great delight in doing that. And when it gets stressful, and it does, pretty regularly, actually, I just remind myself that I'm one of those lucky people in life that can say, I love my job. So I'm bullish on St. Stephen's. We're going to be building out the Falcons journey. which is an extension of our promise that kids will be known and valued, and giving them the chance to have a signature experience. And we're going to create and sustain a great athletics program and arts program with this new facility. And we're going to keep the culture that draws people here. And we're going to enhance our enrollment and our sustainability. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to serve Braden and the Manatee, Sarasota County. I really take that seriously. I think schools like ours not only have the opportunity, but actually have the obligation to make a difference where we are.
I know that there's never been a time that I've been on campus that I haven't seen you. And I know that I hear that from others as well. As a matter of fact, one of the gentlemen in my department stopped by campus, I think, 3 times during spring break, and he saw you here all 3 days. So, Peter, let me tell you, I know there are certain things that you and I share. One of the things we share is a love for the big dance.
Yeah.
And I know you did take some time away to do that. Well, tell me, what kind of things do you like to do when you are not here, which seems rare?
Yeah. Well, again, I love my job. And so things like going to games or concerts or shows, that's just part of the fun. I always feel like I get credit for doing stuff that I would do anyway. You're mentioning it. Yeah. I love to read. I'm a voracious reader. I read probably 3 hours a day when I get home at night. I do like to walk with my lovely wife, Kim, and just kind of decompress and work out. And you're right. I went up to Atlanta the Thursday evening before we actually broke. I know I was kind of violating some rules, probably doing that, but to watch the Sweet 16 in the Elite 8 games, and that was a lot of fun and just a chance to take a breath and remind myself that those times are lots of fun.
And lastly, I guess, for this podcast, one of the things that has been obvious to all of us on campus when we run into you is your love for Abraham Lincoln. Tell us why.
Oh, wow. Well, I know we're getting to the end, so I could be long-winded, but I'll try not to be. I think the first thing I admire about Lincoln is he was a remarkable leader under pressure. The other thing about Lincoln, a lot of people don't realize, though, is that he didn't try to be superhuman. He didn't try to hide when he was struggling with something or when he was stressed. And while I think as a leader, you can't run around hangdog and, I do think that there's utility in saying, someone says, how are you doing? And you're struggling. We say, I'm having a hard time, because then that authenticity and that positivity, which he had, and I try to have, I think is seen as just that, authentic. I admire Lincoln's humility, his dignity, his sense of integrity. He did a lot of hard things, and for much of his presidency, people, all they could do is tell him how bad he was at it. But he kept the faith. He had a great sense of humor. And I think more than anything, he had a sense of purpose. He knew what his North Star was. And, for me, I'm not Lincoln. I would never compare myself to him. But one similarity I would say is that I know what my North Star is. And my North Star is to serve kids and the people that serve them. And so that's what I focus on every day. How can I know and value the people at our school and make sure that they know that they are seen and respected and valued?
Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you for that. Before we close this episode, I do want to highlight really a full calendar over the next 3 weeks and some things that folks who are listening will have the opportunity to join us at. And it's a wide variety. Starting on April 26th, the admissions office is going to offer showcase and guided tours here on campus. That's a Saturday from 10 to noon. This is an opportunity for folks who maybe are working and can't get here during the week to see the campus and learn more about what's behind the gates if they haven't been here before. So we urge you to either come out for that or to tell your neighbors if you know some folks who have friends or neighbors who've kind of talked a little bit about St. Stephen's and haven't had the chance to come over and kick the tires yet. This is an opportunity to do that. On Monday, April 28th, in the Upper School Commons, Peter already mentioned, we are partnering with the Boys and Girls Club and some other folks to do a screening of the Fentanyl Project. That is at 5:30, starts at 5:30. in the upper school commons. There's a film screen. The film is about 25, 26 minutes long, and then there will be a discussion that follows with some experts in the field. Heavy topic, but definitely something you should be aware of, and we'd love to have you come out and join us in that discussion. On Wednesday, April 30th, the Visual Arts Conservatory students will do their annual reception at MPAC at the Manatee Performing Arts Center. That's from 5 to 7 p.m., and we'd love to have you come over there, meet the students who are in the conservatory. Those are the graduating seniors, and view their artwork, which will be on display at MPAC. On Saturday, May 3rd, Peter's already mentioned, Rock the Mac comes back, our second annual concert that proceeds benefit our student athletes, our athletic program here at St. Stephen's. That starts at 6 p.m. on Saturday, May 3rd. Tickets are available. You can go to rockthemac.com and purchase tickets today. The next day, Sunday, May 4th, St. Stephen's Sunday will happen, a Sunday service at our friends at Christ Episcopal Church. The service starts at 9 a.m., and everyone in the St. Stephen's community is invited to come out and enjoy that service. And then finally, for now, on Wednesday, May 7th, it's St. Stephen's Spirit Night with the Bradenton Marauders. That starts at 6:30 p.m. We, again, would love to have you come out and celebrate some green and gold St. Stephen's spirit at the Marauders game. Our Crescendos and Troublemakers, that's our singing groups, 2nd through 5th graders after-school program. They'll be performing, and they will also perform the national anthem that night. So we'd love to have you come out and join us and help root them on and help us root the Marauders on that night.
Wow. Holy smokes. That's a lot of stuff. I said to let these folks go.
Right. So a busy next 3 or 4 weeks. We thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.